Hey guys, it's Tico here with another video of Warframe, and this time we are going to cover in one of the more recent Warframes, Mirage. Now Mirage is actually one of my favorite Warframes that I've played with lately because I actually put a lot of work into her, and this build that I'm going to be displaying in this video actually required 3 formats to get it going because it has a lot of high cost mods that were required to make it work as it works right now. So we are going to discuss pretty much in this build Hall of Mirrors, and we are also going to discuss Eclipse, because those are the two main abilities that you're going to be using with this build. So those are two very important things to keep in mind, because when it comes to Sleight of Hand and Prism, this build pretty much cripples both of those abilities in an actual workable material. You really much want to be focusing on Hall of Mirrors and Eclipse, because the other two, they're going to be crippled too much for this build to actually even be viable in battle. So the first mod that we actually want to go ahead and discuss is, of course, Corrosive Projection, which is the aura. I always like to go ahead and discuss the aura first, because the aura is primarily what's going to define which playstyle you're going to be directed to. If we're energy Cypher, we're probably going to be casting a lot. But since we're going for pure damage, I'm putting Corrosive Projection here because it lowers the enemy armor by 30%, and we are going for full-on damage with this build. There's a little bit of duration, but full-on damage is pretty much the primary thing we're going for. So Corrosive Projection, absolutely 100% necessary. Especially in higher levels, like 40 plus minutes into T4 survival, it becomes extremely important, because at that point the enemy just become extremely tanky, and you really need all the damage you can get. So that's very important. Next up, we got Hall of Malevolence. Now, Hall of Malevolence is the augment mod for Hall of Mirrors, and this is a very important one. It gives you 5% and a 5% additional damage boost to your doppelgangers for every enemy you kill, with a cap of 50%, and that cap cannot be increased with power strength or anything like that. So there is a cap of 50%. So after you kill 10 enemies, you will reach 50%, and each one of your doppelgangers will do an additional 50% more damage of what they initially do. By default, the doppelgangers can inflict 20% damage of what your Warframe can inflict, or what your weapon can inflict. So 20% and then 50% of 20% gives your doppelgangers an additional 10% damage boost, which pretty much, if you don't mess with power strength at all, that pretty much translates to 30% damage for your doppelganger. So that's something to keep in mind, because that's ideally what we're going to be talking about in this video whenever it comes to this build. Next up, we got Transient Fortitude. Now, Transient Fortitude, I got it at rank 8 right now, 2 from the top, and it is a 45% power strength. So 45% power strength. At this point, power strength upgrades pretty much Hall of Mirrors and Eclipse. Those are the two main ones we're going to focus on. So 45% power strength is going to lower our duration by 22.5. Once it gets maxed out, it becomes 55% and minus 27.5%. So I'm actually working on maxing this one out after I max out 3 other mods that I have in this build. But this one is also very important, because with the amount of duration that this build has, you can afford to have a maxed out Transient Fortitude and still be okay. Next up, we got a max out Redirection. A max out Redirection is a no-brainer, because Mirage starts out with a pretty decent amount of health, and we also have Vitality, of course, for the health, and we had Redirection for the shield. So 100% for both. 100% max out for both. 440% shield capacity, 440% health. That translates to 592 health and 592 shield. Next up, we're going to go for duration. We got Constitution. Now, Constitution gives us a 40% knockdown recovery speed, and it gives us 28% more power duration. That is actually very key right there. We got a 1 from the top, narrow-minded. 1 from the top, and this one is going to be maxed out pretty soon. 1 from the top, so it's a 90% power duration minus 60% power range. Next up, we got Prime Continuity. Prime Continuity is also a 1 from the top. It's taking me a while to get it maxed out because it requires so many resources, being a Prime mod, a legendary rarity mod. So Prime Continuity is a 50% duration. We got the Narrow-Minded at 90%, and we got the Constitution at 28%. That translates to a 245% power duration at the moment, which translates to 61 seconds for Hall of Mirrors, and also 49 seconds for Eclipse. So we got 49 seconds on Eclipse and 61 seconds on Hall of Mirrors. And last but not least, we have Blind Rage. Now, Blind Rage is also 1 from the top. It's actually almost maxed out. I got almost enough resources to max it out completely. I'm just holding out on it. And 1 from the top, 90% power strength minus 50% efficiency. Now I want to discuss something here because it's actually something I discussed with a friend of mine. Plus 90% power stance is going to pretty much almost double the damage we inflict, and this is something I'm going to discuss as well. But it also cripples our power efficiency. So currently my power efficiency with this build is 50%, and once the blind rage gets maxed out, it's going to become 45%. That pretty much means that every power you have is going to have an additional cost of 55% more. So a power like Eclipse, for example, which costs 75, is going to cost like an additional 37 more, or close to 40 more energy, because you pretty much cut the power cost in half and add that to the actual cost. So it's going to cost somewhere near around 115 energy to activate one Eclipse, and it's going to cost somewhere around close to 40 energy to activate the Hall of Mirrors. So that's something to keep in mind. The energy cost will be high, and this build does not have a prime flow. That is actually something that's very key. I had a friend that actually kept questioning me whether this was enough energy, but Mirage is one of the Warframes with a little bit more power strength than average. She has 225 power strength whenever she's fully maxed out. And I found in my experience that to be enough for this build because the duration on your powers is so long. Like I said, you got 61 seconds on Hall of Mirrors, 49 seconds on Eclipse. And during that whole time, you kill so many enemies and pick up so many orbs. And if you're using a weapon like the Slime or Gamma Core, you also get energy from the power buff, for the power effect, from the syndicate effect that goes off. You get energy from that too as well. So it works really well. It works a lot better than you would think, considering the high energy cost. As you can see, the build has a lot of damage. It has a lot of potential. Right now, at the moment, I have 3 Formas on this build. 3 Formas, and I had to Forma it 3 times to be able to fit everything because the mods cost so much. Like I said, you have pretty much over about 50-second duration, 50 or 1 minute duration, or 1 minute duration over 1 minute for Hall of Mirrors. So duration is not a problem. Power is definitely not a problem because you inflict a ton of damage. All you gotta worry about, honestly, when you're playing with this build is not to get inside of a nullifier field, because the nullifier fields will screw you over completely. But other than that, you'll pretty much be able to tear through everything that comes your way because you have so much power, so much firepower. Add on to that the Corrosive Projection, you're going to be pretty much wrecking anything that gets in your way. Something important to keep in mind are the Polarity Spots that I actually have. I have 2 Ds, I have 2 Vs, and I have 1 dash. That's what I call them. So to make sure to keep in mind those ones, because those ones are going to translate into the amount of points you need. At the moment, I only got 2 points left in my capacity. Once I max out the Transient Fortitude, those 2 points will go away completely. And I will replace the Prime Continuity with Transient Fortitude in those 2 spots, because they will, they have the Transient Fortitude cost 16, whereas Prime Continuity max out costs 14. So I will have only 1 point left. Narrow Minded max out and Blind Rage max out, they're both 16. So at the moment, they're going to pretty much be rounded down to, and they're going to keep their cost of 8 for both of them because they're both in that polarity spot. So you're going to be left with 1 point left if you max out every single mod in this build and you switch this Prime Continuity with Transient Fortitude in these spots. You're going to be left exactly with 1 point left. Exactly 1 point. So that's something to keep in mind. But thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed the build. Hopefully you like it. Let me know whether you have any suggestions and any questions about it, and whether you think it's effective. If you think it's effective for me, let me know whether if you have any concerns about it, and specifically when it comes to the energy cost and maintaining the build. But otherwise, at least from my experience, it works quite well. Just keep watching those nullifier fields, not to get in them. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening, and I will catch you guys later.